everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today, once again, I'm joined by Mark Darden, and we're going to be taking, hey, there he is, and we're going to be taking a look at another of the Image Founders' first issues. So we started off with Youngblood, we've done Spawn, and now the next in line chronologically as far as distribution and publication is Erik Larsen with the Savage Dragon, issue number 1. Mark, take it away.
Oh yeah. This is the one I was second least excited about when I was a kid. Because
Okay.
Rob was my dude, and then I loved Jim Lee on X-Men, and then Todd McFarlane for Spider-Man. I didn't actually like Erik Larsen's takeover on Spider-Man when I was a kid. I
Okay.
accepted it and kept reading it, but I didn't like it as much.
So you preferred
I loved
McFarlane?
Yeah, because I was a McFarlane guy. And then I liked Mark Silvestri. I knew him from X-Men too. He was kind of my entry point on X-Men. Um, so Savage Dragon was not the book I was excited about. It was fifth place for me for sure. But as an adult, when I rediscovered it, I was like, oh, this was the best one. And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it's obvious that it was the best one.
Listen, I've been reviewing the series just regularly since, I mean, it's been a
Yeah,
while now. We're up to issue 47, I think.
yeah, I've
And
been
yeah,
watching this.
like if there's one thing about the Image guys that was always kind of their bane was the writing skills, and that's what people criticize them on. But Erik Larsen, I find, has always just built a really solid story with good subplots that find resolution in surprising and sometimes macabre and gory ways, right? There's like what I appreciate, like, listen, my introduction to Erik Larsen literally is Savage Dragon number 1, and even as a kid, it was like it just seemed like this issue here. I'll just put it up there. Uh,
Yeah,
had so much more action and bombast and dynamic art as opposed to Spawn number 1, right? Spawn is great. I love McFarlane, but there's a lot of pretty drawing and a slight action sequence, and that's about it. Whereas, Erik Larsen just hits you over the head right away.
yeah. His Kirby influence is very strong on this issue.
100%. Yeah.
Because he out the gates gives you the splash page, goes to the double page spread, gives the kids what they want. It gives you action, hits you with a little bit of plot, and then back to the action, and a little bit of plot, and back to the action. I mean, kind of jumping ahead, but that's very much the layout of this comic.
Oh, absolutely. The Kirby influence, like you said, like at the time, I had no idea, obviously.
Hmm.
And I was just taking it at face value and what it is and how amazing it was. And I just appreciate that aspect that, with the Savage Dragon, you open up that first page and we're going to look at it in a bit. And
Yeah,
you're right in the thick of the action right away. Like it just grabs you right away. Where,
yeah,
Spawn's maybe more of a slow burn. Youngblood's a little kind of, just trading cardy, I guess, at least for like the home team story, right?
yeah,
Here's this guy and here's that guy,
yeah. I hear you.
that kind of
Yeah,
vibe.
and I actually, in my reread as an adult, I really appreciated his Kirby influence because Kirby is well before my time, and even though I've read and looked at some of his stuff and grown to very much appreciate it, especially once I saw it in black and white without the colors, I realized how good it was. Like the ink work was so great, and the line work was so great, and the colors were very dated and weren't really giving me the full art.
Sure. Not
Um,
when you're used to like image coloring, right?
yeah, yeah, used to that great modern coloring. Those colors kind of were holding it back for me, but Kirby was too long ago for me, and getting to see Kirby through Erik Larsen's eyes is kind of what I felt like I got when I was reading Savage Dragon. I got to see Fourth World, but Larsen's version of it. You got to see a lot of going into space, like Fantastic Four, but through Erik Larsen's version of it.
It's a common thread throughout the whole series that he's going back to Kirby every once in a while and
Hmm.
visiting those concepts, right? The latest issue I reviewed, he's in I forget the name of the town, but it's basically there's a character who's an analog of Doctor Doom, and
Oh
they're in
yeah,
some like Bavarian type town. You know what I mean? It
yeah,
looks like that old issue of Fantastic Four that Kirby drew. It's like Fantastic Four go back in time or something, and they're in Latveria.
Yeah, and it's because the main villain is very Doctor Doomish, but then he literally has another Doctor Doom that he goes and battles.
Oh, he's pulled on the Doctor Doom cape a few times in Savage Dragon, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like an analog Doctor Doom shows up every once in a while.
yeah. And he's got his own dark side. He ends up having his own
Yes,
Green
yeah,
Goblin.
absolutely. Which is cool. Like that's part of the fun, I think, with the Savage Dragon series. Is like I always kind of give him a lot of credit for his ability, kind of like Kirby, to create all these cool characters and a lot of throwaway characters that you see for
Yeah,
a panel or two or get blown up or
yeah,
dismembered. And rarely do I not think the design is cool. You know,
yeah.
it happens because he creates so much. There's a dud here and there. There's always something interesting with his designs.
I agree with you.
He's a huge Eric Larson's a huge Commandi fan, right? So if you read,
Oh,
have you ever read Commandi? Like
a
there's
little
all
bit.
sorts of characters, animal characters and robots and just anything that Kirby could just kind of conjure up. Even within just one issue is kind of insane sometimes. Again, I reviewed a Kirby book this week where this design, of this guy working on destroying a mother box. He's got these weird gloves and this what I thought was his face, but it's actually like a protective helmet. It looks kind of
Uh-huh.
like a cyber baboon from like surrealist 70s sci-fi. Like it was so awesome. And it's a throwaway character. He's there for that cool shot. Then he gets
Uh-huh.
blown away and then he's on the ground. And then you realize it's just a mask that kind of a helmet that comes off and stuff. And that's it. But the design could go for miles, I think, because it's just amazing. Yeah. And Larson seems to have that same kind of, you know, uh, evocative character design. I look at a character and with the little bits he might give me, I can almost imagine, something cool or some cool situation with that character.
Yeah, he does a lot with the visuals because a lot of times there's not all the time to explain who everybody is. You got to immediately like the character because it looks cool, which is
Absolutely. Yeah,
which is great for a medium that's kind of meant for children, although it's grown into an all ages medium. But like, boom, here's something, looks cool, great, keep rolling. Maybe you'll learn more later, but immediately visually you're intrigued.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So, any comments on the cover other than obviously it's pretty iconic? We all remember it, right? Again, just right away when I saw this as a kid, didn't know all that whole story about Eric Larson replacing Spider-Man or McFarlane
yeah,
on Spider-Man. So
yeah,
I just took this at face value, and I thought this was, as a kid, a great comic, and still do.
yeah. And the cover's good. It was definitely my fifth favorite out of because I really liked the Young Blood. There was a great layout of the action heroes. Spawn was a fun cover. The Jim Lee's with all the characters, he did a pretty good job. Cyberforce, I liked it if I saw both sides. Like the wraparound of it was great. This one didn't hit as hard with me, but it is a very strong cover. I mean, it's a detailed figure coming at you in an action pose. Um, and like what we liked with Youngblood, you've got the action lines, and in between, you've got the different colors.
Yeah, I do really like the colors on this cover. Really, really bold, and
Yeah.
it's kind of again hitting you over the head. This is the '90s, and things are different. This is right away this is going to be different from a Marvel comic. The type of
Mhm.
character, even just the character's design, and it would be that, right? Obviously, as you kept reading the series, I think there's already a lot of gore and blood in this issue. So
Yeah. And on the cover, it tells you, I mean, he's the Savage Dragon. It's
yeah,
the first brutal issue, and there's going to be intense action from Eric
so
Larson.
so '90s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Extreme, man.
it's yeah. This really like defines that to me.
Yeah,
All right, let's crack her open.
absolutely. Let's do it.
Uh, let's see how this works. There we go. Um, I'll just say I modeled my own comics as credits page on this kind of image idea that I don't think Eric Larson was the only guy to do it, but
Uh-huh.
I always appreciated that they threw in kind of a pinup there. For some
Oh,
reason,
yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And
Uh-huh.
he started off right here with issue one with a really cool illustration of the Savage Dragon there.
Yeah. It gives this page more value. Like instead of it just being a credits page that you would open, see it, and just keep moving like it's almost wasted space. Yeah, there's an image on it, something to enjoy and appreciate.
It's these guys are doing creator-owned comics. They're making a big splash. They kind of know they are, right? Because they're super popular at this time. They're selling tons of books for Marvel before this. So it makes sense that they would give more space and importance to the credits. Marvel Comics, DC Comics up to this point, unless it's maybe like prestige format stuff at DC, most mainstream comics have that same old little rectangle at the bottom of the page or a square on the bottom right with the credits, right? And
Yeah.
this is the first time credits have had this amount of space, I think, in mainstream comics.
Yep. Everybody got their shine.
All right, let's have a look at the first page. So this is what we were talking about, right? Right into the action.
Yep.
Kind of seconds the cover too, right? Because the background is pretty much the same concept.
Yes. Yes, it is. And it's the hero leaping. He's coming forward. He's coming at you. Except now there's a villain in the way. And there isn't much in words or explanation in the opening scene. It's 7 pages of action. There's not character development. It's almost manga-esque. And it's where there's just a fight.
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
an explanation. You don't hear what the character's thinking. He's just in a battle. It looks cool.
Cool looking characters. Yeah, like this, maybe you see the cover and you're not sure if the dragon is, we don't know he's a police officer or anything yet. We don't even know if he's a good guy, right? So maybe you're like, oh, okay, well now it's kind of clearly defined. You open up the book and you're like, okay, he's not a bad guy. He's wearing a cop's shirt, right? It's fairly obvious, right? And the bad guy's got, you're going to assume is the guy with the skulls for shoulders, right?
Yeah, and a blade on his arm.
And knives and that 90s exercise. He's got a sword too. Got to wonder how he would grab it.
And an eye patch. Yeah. Well, he's coming across with his left.
I guess he could. Yeah.
So yeah. That's just like Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, you reach across, pull it out.
That's right, eh? I guess I'd feel more comfortable with the same, but
that would be way easier, yes, at the start.
But I assume if you just have the one arm, that's what you're gonna do. He's probably got another sword on the other side tucked behind his hair there. So, but yeah, great shot. Clearly good versus evil, pretty obvious in the iconic visuals. I just want to state before we go ahead is just how great Erik Larsen is at drawing anatomy and twisting the anatomy and stretching it.
Oh yeah, and he developed a lot of that on Spider-Man, and he's kind of carrying it over into a character who's very different, but still, physically is a different guy because he's a big, strong, hulking guy, but he's still letting him twist and bend in action.
He's just and he's a master of anatomy and foreshortening, which like we're gonna see tons of examples all throughout this comic. But this is just like I said, this is masterful drawing, and I get what you're saying about the kind of slight manga vibe to it, right? This is like just super dynamic imaging. All right, let's move on to we gotta go switch to this guy here.
Yeah.
And this is we're talking about Erik Larsen and Kamandi and Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby had this thing. He kind of started somewhere around the fourth world, and he kept doing on Kamandi where it's that, like you mentioned it, that splash and then the double splash.
Yeah.
So this is the clear example again of following those Kirby footsteps and throwing you right in the thick of the action there.
And 3 pages of full bleed, not wasting a single spot.
Remember my image theory about full bleed?
Yeah. Yeah, making it visually pop.
We skipped over the credits, but this is maybe not the brightest example, but the coloring here is by Gregory Wright, I believe his name is.
Yeah. Gregory Wright.
That's right. And I remember reading in an Erik Larsen interview somewhere that basically what he did is the whole creative team that he had on Spider-Man, the same guys who did the coloring and lettering on his last run there after McFarlane, just basically jumped onto this book and followed him on here. The regular series, issue 1, starts off and it's Steve Oliff. And I don't know if you've ever kind of taken time to look and compare, but I vastly prefer what Gregory Wright is doing.
Yeah, this is nice. It's very cartoony.
It's bright and bold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kind of fitting, and like you said, not too jarring if you've looked at some Spider-Man stuff by Larson before you move on to Savage Dragon, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
the,
Yep.
the olive colors on the regular series, I just felt always just darkened things and were maybe more suited to something like Spawn. And eventually on the Savage Dragon, he does eventually kind of lighten up a little bit,
Hmm.
and the colors become kind of poppier like this again. But this is honestly my favorite era of coloring on the Savage Dragon.
Yeah. But meanwhile, for Olaf doing Savage Dragon, Spawn, and Youngblood,
The
and the
money,
Max, that guy,
yeah. Well,
he was crushing it.
oh, absolutely, right. And when you talk about the comics boom and the comics bubble in the early 90s to mid 90s, and then when it burst, there are some people who were aware that it would happen, and others who are kind of, in la la land, and, this is going to
Sure.
go on forever. So,
Yeah.
I have to assume Steve Oliff had been around for a while then. So he was just like, let's, while the getting's good, I'm going to be doing all the top books and everyone wants me. So, probably pulling some 80-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks sometimes, but, making mucho money, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Good for him too, if that's how it
Yeah.
all worked out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I just felt that, not saying the colors were horrible, but always better suited to the darker stuff, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was so good on Spawn. It was perfect. But I agree with you. These colors are fun.
So introduced also, I think this guy's name, if I'm not mistaken, is Cutthroat,
Yep.
and that's his girlfriend. I don't know her name. I don't know if it's ever mentioned,
Yeah.
but she's
It says
introduced on this
cutthroat on
page.
there.
She's got a pretty interesting design that's pretty early 90s, I think, even just in the hair.
Well, she's well dressed for skateboarding. She's got her knees and elbows and shoulders covered and some gloves on. Anything
Yeah,
else, gonna
I was
get hurt.
almost seeing her in like roller skates. That's kind of
Yeah.
the vibe I get from her.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of a rock and roll vibe. A little bit Tina Turner, Mad Max.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's hilarious. All right, let's keep her going. So now I gotta hit back over here, go through here, and there we go. So
And
this was
still very full bleed for the most part.
what was that? Sorry, you kind of cut out a bit,
It's still they're still doing the manga-esque full bleed where a lot of the panels just go all the way to the edge.
which is great. I
Yeah,
I love that stuff, and I like Larson at this point is, he's a great draftsman. He's a pretty much a master artist and storyteller, I'd say. Compositioner and anatomy, all that stuff. He's pretty well rounded. And he just has a knack of making the page move. And this is, I think, a good example of that. This whole page, reading it and the action and stuff, it's just the flow is so good. The drawing is so good. He uses like using the money, right, to create that movement in the bottom panel there on the left.
yeah,
Even I don't know if he did this. He might have cut this out eventually, but the punch that he's throwing back there and those lines, the manga lines, I guess, for lack of a better
yeah. The
term,
motion lines. Yeah,
motion lines. There you go. That works. And again, I'm seeing it now in this action sequence. Now that you mention it, I do find there's a lot of kind of manga vibe to it for sure. It really moves just like a manga does.
yeah. And this page and into the next page. I mean, at the top you've got a guy coming across with a punch. Then you've got a person coming down. So you're getting the above view, the bird's eye view. And
Yeah,
then as she comes down, the boom, you're getting the pop, which this was after Batman 1989 when Batman did that in the movie where he's just around the
sure.
corner and the guy's walking off and he just bam hits the
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
So there's several Batman little references in here. And then from that you get an open panel, without really a background, the guy coming in for a kick. So it's just boom, bam, kick. It's moving, like you said.
that's exactly it. He mastered like how could I? I'm going to cut that out. Where are we now? Okay, I'll remember the page. Three, two, one. Yeah, he really masters the reading direction, the reading flow, and just movement all around and dynamism. And this is a fast moving page. Let's move on to
Yeah,
the next one, which is more the same, I guess.
keeps it going. Now you got a guy swinging his head forward, and then you get an uppercut, and then he throws, which actually doesn't make a lot of sense, the uppercut, and oh no, it comes across with the left.
Yeah.
So he gives him the uppercut and then across with the left. You've got the guy coming at you. So it's very animated, and every action panel is dynamic and different from the last. It's a great fight scene.
Yeah, I feel like he dropped those motion lines eventually or didn't use them quite as much. And he's using a lot of it here. And that
Mhm.
certainly adds to the dynamism of it all, right? Um,
Yeah.
And yeah, the character of Cutthroat coming towards us, the foreshortened figure upside down. I love how he had him burst out even of that broken, like he's bursting out of the panel and the
Yes.
panel border is all broken up. So all of these things, and again, all the way throughout, he's using those background motion lines, the red, orange, green kind of color scheme. It's
Yep.
just very coherent and following what it's established, I guess, even from the beginning with the cover. The color scheme is consistent and it really pops and it's great. Everything's servicing the action and the story properly.
Yeah, and he's canted the panel just slightly to just keep it visually fresh. And you've
Yeah.
got a guy who's very twisted now. I mean, body-wise, if you were actually twisted like that, that'd be horrible. Because this guy's arm is all the way across over here. There's a leg sprawling back, a knee up.
You would have to assume his spine is broken at this point.
Yeah, and his other arm is all the way twisted back here and also creating part of the panel border with his blade.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he'd be hurting from this. He This would have been, I think, the end of Cutthroat, but he comes back.
Well, these are what do they call them? Super freaks? Is that what their name is?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the lesser freaks, though, in power level.
Well,
Because he gets
I was going to say
beaten by,
he at least survives this, right?
he does survive it, yes, but he gets trashed by Dragon multiple times. It's kind of a running thing.
Do you think that's from have you read Frank Miller's Daredevil run?
A little bit of it, not all of it.
So there's this character, I forget his name, but he's like this low level street hustler that Daredevil just goes and harasses every few issues, right?
Oh,
And eventually, he is part of the story and can find out, he kind of squeezes him to get info on the street, that kind of thing.
yeah,
So I,
yeah.
I feel like maybe I definitely feel in some instances with the Savage Dragon some Frank Miller influence as well. There has to be, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna see some more.
So, I really liked this sequence as a kid because I don't
Uh-huh.
know, I'm 11 or probably 10 or 11 when this came out. Is it 1992? Right?
1992. Yeah, middle of
Yeah.
92.
So I would have been 11. We've talked before about my love of, action movies from that era, canon films and stuff. And this was just one of those, cool movie moment lines, right, that they build up to in movies. And to me, it was like, wow, cool. I got to kind of see something like that in a comic. As a kid, I was
Oh,
like kind of impressed by that. And yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? So Cutthroat is kind of bad mouth and dragon all the way through.
mm,
Great down shot, by the way, here with the dragon, the musculature and stuff. Just looks really cool. The ripped shirt, part of the action, right? It's like
right.
Marvel pushed to the extreme. We've seen some blood, some gore, and then this shot of the dragon, which in my mind I almost thought I was remembering as a splash, but it's just a pretty big panel on this page, but it's just like the money
Mm.
shot, right? And what he says, because I say so. And there's something as a kid when I saw that, like I understood that I had to read it that way. The storytelling is so good, like I could hear almost him actually saying it. You know, Brian Bosworth is Savage Dragon. Do you know Brian Bosworth? He's that guy in Stone Cold. Really
Now,
cheesy, obscure early 90s movie. He's an ex-football player. Anyways, I'm
okay.
going deep. I'm going deep there, but because there was always this kind of remember Wizard when they would talk about who should star in a comic
Oh
book
yeah.
movie, who would play who. They had
Mhm.
mentioned that guy, Brian Bosworth, and it's kind of works like with this shot here and the way his face looks and stuff. I could kind of see it. Anyways, anyone out there wants to Google Brian Bosworth, check that out. That'll be a
Yeah.
waste of 5 minutes of your life.
Now, I like the next panel because it's a very Batman-esque panel. It's even got the dotted color to give it an older look. Like it stands out from the other panels when you're looking at it because it does have the dot texture going
Yeah.
on. But it's a villain on the ground, and then what would be like the Batman shadow just looming over him, except instead of having the 2 points, you just get the one fin in the middle, and the villain just like, yeah, I give up.
I love the cringing kind of body language on him, right?
Mhm.
Like as
Yeah.
opposed to what we saw before, where he's again bad mouthing and slicing the dragon and all this stuff and fighting him. Now he's just kind of curling up in a ball. That's great body language, great storytelling. And yeah, you know what that first silhouette I think that we've seen of the dragon kind of establishes is that he's got a pretty iconic, recognizable look to him, right? If you can just define a character as a silhouette, you've probably
Uh-huh.
got something, right? People will
Yeah.
recognize it. So
Then we get
down here, I like how he's holding Cutthroat there, bent over. That's hilarious. That's
oh yeah.
another good bit of
My
like
pants or
storytelling.
something.
Larson's characters, for the most part, are always kind of doing something in the panel, which is very important. And I love these beaten up, bloody shots down here of him. Kind of this to me kind of reminds me of Die Hard, a little bit of Bruce
Oh,
Willis.
yeah. Yeah, it's a good reference. Yeah, it's caught the bad guys talking with one of the other cops, and then and then we move on.
So I'll be honest and attest to the fact that I wasn't quite sure as a kid when I got to this
Uh-huh.
page what was going on.
Uh-huh.
Just because I guess I didn't pay attention to the fact that that little caption was at the top, right? And on the reread, and eventually on the reread as a kid, I figured it out and I saw it. But I remember this confusing me a little bit before. So uh, I just started collecting comics. I guess there's still a visual language, uh, things to look for, anchors and stuff that I maybe hadn't fully figured out, but maybe it could have been more obvious. A longer text box. I don't know what it would have
Uh-huh.
helped.
Yeah, it's a small one, so it is easy to miss, but I think I caught it better as a kid, but I also grew up writing. So I read comics, but I was also writing stories. So that clicked to me right away. I felt like he did correctly what Todd was trying to do. He
Okay.
introduced the hero in modern times, and then as simple as just saying before, hey, this happened before. Guys in a burning field, and then they slide over to the shot of him laid up in a bed, and they're having a conversation. He's also the second hero in a row to have amnesia. He knows all the modern day facts, but he doesn't remember who he is or any details of his life, but he just knows how to do stuff. Um, and that worked for me. I understood that we got a setup of the character because you want to pop right into the action. Now we're giving you a little bit of story, which only goes on for a few pages. They really just give you a few details about the character and then they just keep it moving.
Which is smart, right? Because we've talked about first issues, what do you establish, what do you not? Because sometimes you can, you know, lock in too many things that you're kind of stuck with after, like Spawn and the Hourglass that McFarlane eventually got rid of, and other little examples here and there. Larson was really good also at staying consistent with those kind of details over the whole series. So the prior page, just want to mention that fire scene
Mhm.
comes back a bunch of times throughout the
Yeah.
series, right? He reintroduces it in a different context, different storyline, but it's a reference to that original image, obviously, which is cool. It ties it
Yeah.
back and it makes it fun. This page here, more specifically, I really like, he's slowed down the storytelling, right? It's a little more proper,
Right.
it's a little more just
Mhm.
traditional comic book, even though he kind of does that, how many 5 panels there in the middle kind of area, which is cool,
Yeah.
not
10 panel
necessarily
page.
yeah, not necessarily a standard thing, but it works really well. And
Mhm.
even though it's just a dialogue scene, he varies the angles, right, and the close-ups and
Mhm.
what he crops and stuff, which is very interesting.
Mhm.
Dragon's, reactions to not knowing that one shot of his close-up of the mouth and the eye there, I think is really good for again body language and what he's feeling.
Mhm.
And coloring wise, I think the scene is great, and that first panel seems to be raining outside, right? And then when you
Mhm.
hit that third panel, you got some lightning, right? And that's what's implied by the coloring. And I like that flash of just pure white, and I guess
Yeah.
kind of a bluish hue in that, or purple in the shadow, and then it comes back right for the last 2 panels.
Yeah. And I like the pacing a lot because even though it's slowed down, there's still not a ton of words. He lets the visuals
Yes.
tell a lot of the story. The character doesn't explain his feelings. You just get a sense of them from his facial expressions and from the pauses. And letting you know that he has amnesia is told with very limited words. He just kind of is fast and efficient with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he gets the whole point across on this page. And even though it's just two guys talking, visually
Mhm.
it's very, no one's really doing anything, but it's still dynamic. He still found a way to make the page interesting and fun to read and fun to look at.
Yeah. And Frank, the police chief, just keeps asking him a few questions, facts like do you know your name? Do you know your birthday? Do you know where you're from? No, 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 no. Well, who's the president? Who was in this sporting event? He's just everything that's a detail about the world he knows about himself, he doesn't. And it takes 2 pages to tell that story. And he does it very well. And
And
boom,
with
15 panels.
and like you mentioned, the right amount of words, I think too, right? Nothing worse than a page chock full of dialogue that's kind of a sweat to read through.
Yeah.
That's something I would say with again consistently throughout the whole Savage Dragon series is
Mhm.
it's never too dialogue heavy. Like you said, if he can explain it in the visuals and not have to throw in extra explanation, he doesn't. And a very efficient storyteller, as we were saying before, really on the video that I certainly think that Erik Larsen, out of the founding members, is probably the best writer. And this is more examples of that. And that also this helps to vary the tone within the book or the beats, we'll say, the extreme action and then boom, just kind of a calm sequence. That's again still visually interesting. And he's continuing that coloring lightning motif on this page, which again, that's now when I look at this page specifically, it reminds me even more of Frank Miller. The stark shadows, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and I mean, I guess we can spoil it, right? So the Savage Dragon, it'll be revealed, and Larson has said he knew even from this issue because he had worked on the Savage Dragon concept before the Image series, right? So he already had kind of a bit of backstory and stuff. That he knew that Dragon's supposed to be an alien, right? I think that's what it is.
Yeah, he had a couple issues before Megaton, before when he was an indie guy, before making it to Marvel. So he did have some backstory and even recalls back to one of the issues where he redrew it and redid it later. Yeah, I was surprised to find out he was an alien, but it's
I
a long
mean,
time until they come around to it.
sure, but like he's like you said, he's claimed that from the beginning he knew that because of prior concepts from Megaton and stuff. I mean, listen, I would tend to believe him just because he seems to be pretty smart again about the storytelling and the continuity and those plot threads that in other Image books they would start these plot threads that would go nowhere, but with Erik Larsen he would always have a resolution. Sometimes it'd be a long time away, 10, 12, 15 issues later, but you'd be like, holy shit, wow, okay, he remembered that bit and he came back to it, right?
Yeah,
um this guy here at the top is
Super
Super
Patriot.
Patriot, right? As we're
Yeah.
introduced to him, but in his classic original costume. So Larson kind of establishing that there's a backstory to this whole Savage Dragon and probably Image universe, right? Kind of the first hints of that.
Yeah, Super Patriot's very much his Captain America. He's been fighting since the 40s. You've got, I mean, he's a red, white, and blue costume. He's got the stars, the eagle. He's got the pirate boots and the gloves. It's very Captain America, except that he gets hit with kind of a Watchmen-esque background of like, here's this classic hero, and then he gets just smacked down in a fight and goes into critical condition. It very much reminded me of Watchmen, where the original Night Owl got hunted down by the thugs
Sure.
and taken out. And in this case, he just loses in a fight and goes to the hospital. We come to find out later he survives and metamorphoses. But what's very interesting, the look that he gives Super Patriot is extremely similar to a cyborg character that he had during his 6-issue Spider-Man run when he took over for Todd McFarlane. And he's got
Okay.
a character that's extremely similar looking. I suppose I could pull it up another time, but he
Oh,
kind of kept that look and used it.
Cyborg X or something. Is that possibly what he was called, or something similar to
Uh,
that? I think I know he had like a green color scheme.
It was a different, yeah, it was a different color scheme. It's not an identical look, but it
It's
is
not
very,
exactly the same, but yeah, it's very similar. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So basically, what this page is here for, giving you a little bit more backstory with Super Patriot. Why is he showing up? Well, America's, most patriotic superhero has been attacked, and as you said, taken down, and he's going to reappear in the '90s, kind of redesign. That's pretty cool, actually. I've always liked his design.
yeah,
But we didn't know that yet. Seeing this, all he's trying to establish is, that the bad guys are vicious and more so than they were before. Kind of a very '90s concept once again. So we need guys who are, as extreme as they are. Fighting
yeah,
on the side of fighting on the side of good, fighting on the side of the police.
yeah. And there's a sense of tragedy.
Yeah,
I mean, we get a very cool action scene, but then there's some issues with Savage Dragon's background, and then we see a hero losing. We also get that Frank has a wife, so a few little character details being thrown in, and then Frank trying to recruit Savage Dragon to the cause, like, hey, we need help. We're losing the war. Super Patriot just went down. Can you join the police force? And Savage Dragon be like, man, I don't even know who I am. Uh, that's not for me.
yeah, and I like how, it's kind of, other than the action sequence that we saw, that obviously we know now is the present and this is the past. Um, he still kind of throws in this look of menace in that last panel of
Oh,
on the Savage Dragon's face, right? So where you could almost kind of believe, well, is he good or is he bad, or you know what I mean? And I feel like the coloring, the sun coming in through the window kind of vibe is all of that's kind of playing into, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? What's he gonna do? It's a great shot too.
yeah,
All right, next page.
right. Frank going back to tell the wife that Savage Dragon won't take the gig. Wife tries to console him. Little heavy dialogue. But boom! Finally, we had 7 pages of action. We had to sit through 6 pages of plot, one of which was a guy in a burning field. Finally, we're getting back to some action. Uh, Frank, after getting striking out on getting Dragon onto the force, gets him a job with Fred, his brother or his cousin, and Eric Larsen. One panel establishing shot of this warehouse by the water, one shot of Savage Dragon doing some work with a little bit of background. Then some super freaks show up, start trashing stuff, trying to shake Fred down, and we're back to the action.
Yeah, very very satisfyingly so too.
Yeah.
I love the establishing shot. There's that sliver cropped.
Yep.
I think the coloring on it is perfect for that, just that right time of night and mood.
Yep.
I like the colors on this whole page again, all throughout the
Hmm.
comic. And again, the addition in that last panel of those blast speed lines, motion lines in the background,
Yeah.
uh, just all the way throughout this comic, and uh, just something that adds so much to my enjoyment of it that I didn't realize. When you're reading the book, I'm like, it's not the lines that are moving me, but it's just works really well. And again, reviewing the rest of the series, he kind of lets it go and doesn't use it quite as much. So I love to ask him why. Because I really feel like it was almost a leg up on all the other guys, where it's his stuff just seemed to move so much more.
Hmm. And he establishes where you are with the outside shot. There's a little bit of background in panels 2 and 3, but then those motion lines that are in panels 5 and 6
Yeah,
help to just fill in. I mean, even in small panels, but we're getting a lot of action in small panels. It's very close up, almost like conversational. And we're getting different action again because he comes in, boom, break a hand, boom, shove a guy's face into the wall. Now a
yeah.
guy's leaping at him with the action lines. No
That
background. He's just kind of waiting patiently.
that shot of the guy's face into the wall is really good.
Yeah.
You really feel the speed behind it, the power behind it. Very well done. All right.
And after we got those upward motion lines of a guy jumping up at Savage Dragon. Now we get the downward motion lines of the guy coming down at him, only to just fall right into a fist.
Just like and you can feel like the full stop of it, like just boom. Very clever. I like just a great choice graphically to get that idea across.
Yeah.
Just really strong. And that smack that he gives them in the next panel, kind of reminiscent of Cutthroat a little bit in that this character's name is Skullface.
Yeah, Skullface.
So he's also breaking the border here, just like Cutthroat what was a few pages earlier, kind
Oh
of,
yeah.
bringing him even closer to us with that whole overlay and full bleed.
Hmm. Yeah.
Great, great shot of the dragon too in that last panel down there. Very cool.
Yep. He doesn't look nearly as badly messed up. And Skullface is also now trying to recruit him. Like, what the heck? You're one of us. Why don't you just, take the easy work and make some big money? And Savage Dragon kind of in this panel now states who he is. Like after saying, "Hey, I don't want to get involved," now he's like, "I want to take you to jail."
Yeah, now it's firmly established, I guess, that he's actually a good guy. At
Yeah.
least in this flashback sequence.
Yeah. Or at least a law and order guy.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The anti-hero, I guess, is the term for that kind of guy. Um, love this shot here of this character who, again, we've just seen in like 3 or 4 panels. I think he comes
Mhm.
back at some point, but I like, I'm really stopping to pay attention to his design. He's
Mhm.
got a Punisher style kind of skull on his chest that I never really noticed before. I just kind
Yeah.
of thought it was the way, Larson had designed the costume, and there's a bit of uplighting on his chest muscles or something. I think this is the first time I noticed that's actually a skull. Pretty cool.
The yeah, the eye pecs on his chest are very Spawn or Venom-esque.
Yes, like the shape of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's literally eyes and nose, and then the belt is kind of the mouth forming a face.
Yeah, and see another interesting aspect after 30 odd years of, looking at this book every once in a while, just notice that now. It's funny. The gift that keeps on giving, that is Savage Dragon issue 1.
Yeah, and then he keeps it moving. Fred's upset. He's going to get out of there because he's scared of the super freaks, and beating this battle doesn't win the war. And Dragon promises to protect him, and then you get a cool poster, an importantly placed poster, because if not, it would ruin the reveal because this boom is on the right page, which is incorrect. But whether Eric, I don't know if he was sitting at the drawing desk and hadn't thought of that at the time, and then was like, "Oh shoot, well I'll slap a poster in there." He could have also, had an ad for something else and moved
Sure.
it over one,
But that
which.
makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that creates at least some separation between the two scenes, right? Some page flip, that you have
Yeah,
to go through to get to the next bit of the story.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
then we get
forgot we had the poster there. Do I have one in my issue? Sometimes they've been pulled out. Yeah, see, mine is gone.
yeah. So you're just like, "Hey, I'm gonna protect." Oh, he's not gonna protect him.
Yeah, yeah. It cuts to the chase pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's
I mean
that's
it.
kind of the strength of this book too, because with the first issue, who has time to, kind of lollygag around or whatever? Spawn's a little bit more slow in that sense, maybe, but there's more going on psychologically in the head and those symbolic kind of
Uh,
scenes where he's remembering his past. Here it's just, action after action after action, action consequence, and let's get to an action sequence.
yeah. Well, Spawn's more of a lamenting, remorseful
Yes.
guy versus Savage Dragon's more of a one foot in front of the other. What am I tackling today? Well, that happened. Go deal with it. Uh, would be kind of funny if instead of on the next page, when he just says "damn," if he had been like, "Well, that didn't work," just whoops.
Well, this certainly seems like the kind of scene where, there's a lot of things, the way it's structured with that, just him saying something in that last panel on the
Yeah,
close up, it definitely lends to that, the idea of a punchline of some sort, right?
yeah,
Whatever it is, that he decided to just go with a simple damn. I guess that's in line with the character, right? But even then, Savage Dragon gets a bit funnier all the way throughout the series. So this is just the first issue, right?
Yeah, and again, visually, I mean, there was explosion the page before. Now the debris is falling down. He's just standing in the middle of it and
Well, we're
then
kind of
goes to the ground dramatically, upset. Not worried about burning, just
clearly, yeah, they're just it's kind of like a newer version of what we saw on that before page, right? Where he's lying down in the fire again, getting the idea across a second time. Savage Dragon is immune to fire. It seems like.
yeah. And for folks at home, obviously its digital version is much brighter in colors than what you'll get if you actually look at the page.
Yeah, as I'm assuming, like the background, the bleed is black, right? Or it's a
Yeah,
bit
it's just black. Yeah, it's much
colors.
much
Yeah, yeah,
dumber.
yeah. The colors are a bit off on this.
Yeah.
Another thing we can't see on the screen, actually, since you're talking about that, I will mention,
Mhm.
I still prefer those early Image comics on newsprint paper, right?
Oh yeah,
What this issue is printed on,
yeah.
it's the better quality newsprint paper for sure. It's like a
Thicker.
thicker,
Yeah.
slightly glazed, even maybe. Like there's some sort of treatment to it, but like this is to me the best paper. When they went to the glossy, you lost something a little bit comic booky about it, right? The
Yeah.
black is never, even in the comic book, the black is never quite black, right?
Mhm.
Until they started printing on glossy paper, and then it kind of tend to, I don't know, it made it flatten things a little bit. I don't know what the effect is, but I do want to say I just much prefer this newsprint paper overall.
Yeah. And not that crucial, but just the feel of glossy paper isn't as great either. Like just
Oh, just
tactily.
the tactile. No, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I much
Yeah.
prefer, and it leaves smudges and stuff. It's just, yeah. I just
Yeah. And the colors tend to be too bright.
someone,
Um,
someone at some point at Image decided that that was better. I think was it Tom McFarlane who did it first, or I remember it's around Youngblood Strike File or something. I seem to remember everyone moving over to.
Yeah, because Youngblood hits the glossy paper with issue 4. The
Yeah.
Max has a few issues, and then it switches to the glossy. But I think the Savage Dragon, the full miniseries, gets out before glossy. But yeah, they all switch over, and this
You think
is
also some people, some of those guys just felt kind of pressured because it's one of those things where, well, now everyone's moving to glossy. Glossy is the thing. Where it
yeah,
would have been nice if at least a couple of those guys just kind of went, no, I still prefer the look of newsprint and just have the balls to like power through it. You know what I mean? And I imagine maybe the newsprint paper is slightly cheaper. You know?
yeah, maybe slightly. And there was a perceived higher value to this
Yes. Yeah, for
glossier
sure.
paper. As a kid, I can remember being like, "Ooh, that's better," but I think that's just because the idea of shiny made it
Well,
feel
that's it.
like
Yeah.
it was more value, but it wasn't better.
Yeah, I just the way the colors sit on the paper is different, and it's you lose something. It's almost like when things went from vinyl to tape and then tape to CD. Everyone kind of says, yeah, it's getting more and more perfect, but in that perfection, you're kind of losing something that was fun. Something a little more organic, something a little bit more worn. And as
Yeah,
far as
there's
music goes, and even with the visual look of the comic, right? I think it applies.
yeah, I love the convenience of my digital music. I've got it all on my computer. It's very quick and easy to get to what I want and listen to what I want. But there was definitely something to placing a record on a player, putting the needle on the record, and then like that's what you're going to listen to. And you're
Yeah,
going to
there's a much more focus on what's happening in the moment for sure. When
yeah.
listening to music, I can remember, I'd never had vinyl, right? It was just a little bit before my time when I was a kid. I'd listened to a bit of vinyl when I was like 7 or 8, my dad's old vinyls, and that was about it. Then we moved to tape, and then we moved to CD. And at some point, I got back into vinyl. I bought a player, and I'm into heavy metal. I bought this Iron Maiden album that I was very familiar with and put
Uh,
it on and listened to it on vinyl for the first time. And I'm a musician, and it hit me because it was so different in its sonic quality that it's almost like I felt like I was in the room with the band. Like this sounds weird, but I could hear the space between the instruments, like of the guys in the room. Yeah,
mhm.
it was something that you don't get from CD or just digital music like we listen to now on our Bluetooth speaker or whatever.
Yeah, I've definitely heard music experts describe it as a warmth, and kind of tying it back around, this newsprint paper also kind of gives a warmth and a feel to it that the glossy doesn't.
Absolutely. All right,
Uh,
back to story.
yeah. So
So
back to
now,
the story. Another great thing is, even though this is the Savage Dragon and it's a 24-page comic, but Eric Larson is now introducing hero number 3. It's mostly about Savage Dragon, but we got a page that gave us a little bit of a hint of the Super Patriot, his Captain America. Now we're getting his Captain Marvel, who also tragically has been around fighting the good fight for a long, long time, and now, oh no, he died.
well, that's it. He's hammering that plot point again that the old guard of the classic
Mhm.
superheroes just aren't enough to fight this new breed of vicious circle ruffians, right? And again, as a kid, because this is my first Eric Larson issue, had no idea at that point that this was an analog to Captain Marvel. No idea at all. But when you look at it now, it seems fairly obvious with the lightning strike across the chest, right? Now that I
Yeah.
am, once I got into comics and started getting well versed in at least the major characters, then I
Mhm.
figured it out. Even the gauntlets, the gloves are fairly reminiscent of Shazam as well.
Yeah, yeah, Mighty Man is very much his Captain Marvel analog. He even has some similar enemies, but again, it's one of those things where as a kid, I wasn't there for Captain Marvel. It
Yeah,
was when it came out, it beat Superman. Kids liked Captain Marvel more than Superman. It was more kiddish, more inventive with its ideas.
yeah,
A lot of the things that became Superman actually came from Captain Marvel, where the Captain Marvel writer ended up over on Superman after DC finally sued. I'm forgetting the comic company at the name.
Fawcett, I think.
Facet. Yeah, they sued him multiple times, and multiple times Facet won and kept Captain Marvel going. And then when sales finally went down, they just went, okay, we give up now. And the writer ended up going to DC and brought over a lot of the ideas from Captain Marvel and introduced him into Superman,
Yeah,
giving
that
him
makes
a bold supervillain to fight. And, he got the power to fly, and a super family was introduced. And a lot of those came from Captain
yeah, a lot
Marvel.
of the Silver Age kind of concepts that we associate with Superman actually stem from Golden Age Captain Marvel stuff,
Mhm.
or at least
Yeah.
the germ of the idea, the similarity to that idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in this world, he's dead.
Yep. Just died. We just, hey, here's this guy, and he's dead. Okay, we're going to keep it rolling.
Yeah, like he's upping the ante, right? Like he did it with Super Patriot, where it's like, here's the guy, and he's injured and maimed. Here's
Yeah.
this guy, and he's dead, right? So
Right. The stakes are just stacking up, and somebody's got to help. And then, oh, knock at the door, and
thought that was
Savage.
a weird kind of typo, or lettering style for the knock on the
Oh,
door, and in
uh-huh.
a Savage Dragon comic, it kind of stands out a little bit in a weird way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not a cartoony lettering, but
Looks like typewriter letters or something,
mhm.
if I could
Yeah.
describe it that way.
Yeah. And then Savage Dragon without pants on is back to take up that job as a police officer.
Yeah. Sometimes I've been seeing throughout this first issue, I never noticed this before, but like if I look at that bottom left panel, this very small figures, there's
Uh-huh.
almost like a Claus Janson kind of quality to the drawing. Like the inking is a little bit rough. And those shadows that he added below that, like sometimes I'm always, you can be impressed by the big splash page and all the detail in the hatching, but sometimes I'm impressed by a little shot like this, a down shot with just the right
Mhm.
amount of shading.
Yeah.
Just really works, right? And it's a very simple, small panel, not a lot of detail.
Yeah. And the shadow doesn't exactly follow the figure. And that's
Oh, but it totally works. It's almost like
totally
a
works.
a little bit of a Kirby squiggle kind of shadow, but just a
Yeah,
little rougher. Same idea, right? Just an abstract shape that says, "Hey, he's casting a shadow." That's all you
yeah,
really need.
absolutely.
So now, well, Chicago now is where we are.
Uh-huh. And finally we get back to some action again.
See, this is
After
this. this is what I associate more with the lettering in Savage Dragon, where the lettering almost becomes part of the action, right? And
Uh-huh.
and the design of the page and the panels and stuff. So
Mhm.
this, I think, is a good example of that. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, no, no worries. Yeah, we're back in it. The police are overwhelmed, just like Frank said, and Savage Dragon shows up to help out.
We meet Alex for the first time, right? Which is kind of a supporting character that's going to become, fairly
Yeah.
important throughout the series. At least
Mhm.
I'm at issue 47 on the reviews, and she's still around and she's still part of the plot. So
Yeah. She's there for a long, long time. Um,
she's she's kind of like the oh man, what was her name in RoboCop?
oh,
His
yeah.
partner.
Yep.
I kind of see it like that. I feel like Eric Larson, like I think a lot of people probably in fiction and comic books and stuff really like that first RoboCop movie. I think it's
Oh,
great. It's
yeah, who
just a
didn't?
classic. So I feel like there's some elements of that early on in the Savage Dragon series with this character of Alex, kind of the cop sidekick. And
Uh-huh.
also, I was going to say earlier, it slipped my mind, but Super Patriot kind of has a little bit of that RoboCop vibe, right? The guy who gets, well, in this case, maimed, not necessarily
Yeah.
killed, but and then given robotic parts and turned into a killing machine.
Yeah, I'd agree with you because in the movie, the guy, they do shoot off his limbs first, and the core of the body survives the head and the torso. And
Yes.
that's same as Super Patriot, where he gets beaten badly in this fight and the limbs are torn off, but the head and torso survives. It is visually funny that in that final panel, is Eric Larson using the shadows to give him an X-Men style, or is this kind of a skull and crossbones look?
Yeah, I mean the way it's inked, you could probably see a lot of different kind of designs in there. The X definitely being the most obvious one.
Mhm.
I just think that's one of those things that happens sometimes.
Mhm.
When you're working on pages and on a deadline, and you don't necessarily intend for that to happen. I don't know if that was. I feel like his intention was just a bit of dramatic lighting, but that's how it
Uh-huh.
came out.
Huh.
It doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the image in any way. Like,
No.
cool shot of just the super buff dragon pretty much ready to kick some ass.
Yeah.
I'm amazed as an artist, just sometimes these simple little things, as I've said, and this pose crouched down at this angle,
Uh-huh.
kind of hard to draw and something you don't do a lot. So when you have to do it, it's like, and just masterful, you know? You know right away, you're not confused in any way, right? It's not like a Rob Liefeld 3/4 from the back where sometimes, you're not quite sure exactly which part of the leg is which.
Yeah, it's a good crouch. And then kind of 80s action style film, he goes to the trunk to get armed up.
Yeah. And we get the money shot with the guns, which again, pure early 90s extremity here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a word, but I call it extremity.
Yeah,
To
well,
differentiate from extremity, which is different, right?
and in the 80s had the action stars. So if Eric Larson's in a kid in the 80s growing up with these films with Arnold and Stallone and the big, the big shots of the muscular guy with the guns and the ammo.
Oh, it's
This
all here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, and
absolute.
that influence is on the comic page in the 90s.
I mean, listen, he's got the Terminator sunglasses,
Yeah.
Great shot though. It's the kind of stuff, that I traced and tried to reproduce as a kid, one of those cool poses we keep talking about, right?
Uh-huh.
And just this, for some reason, I really like this vertical panel on the right that's just very immediate and quick. And you get that sense that he was on the ground. Now he's whoop, he just jumped and he's flipped in the air. And I wasn't confused. I knew what had happened there. And it's just so well done. Dragon goes from being absolutely huge to absolutely small.
Uh-huh. And way up in the air. And he didn't just go with a, pose. He decided to have him somersault.
Yeah, he flips, and maybe he flips more than once in this sequence. We
Yeah.
don't know.
Right. There's not a curly action line going on.
No, but I could definitely imagine it. And then boom, this is the moment I like to say where the ECDC music kicks in, right? As he
Uh,
crashes through the ceiling
uh-huh.
here. If this were a movie, that's where the soundtrack, the big rock track or hard track would come in.
Hmm. Yeah, and then going again with not needing to say a lot.
It's all in the visuals there,
Yeah.
absolutely. But again, I'll talk about his character designs because these guys are not necessarily super powered,
Right.
but each one of these has this very distinctive look. I
Mhm.
like the guy on the left. He looks like an old wrestler. I forget his name. He had these like bushy eyebrows. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and the guy to the right kind of has a slight Wolverine vibe, right? Because back
Yeah.
then it wasn't common for guys to have that hairstyle and sideburns. I don't even know if it's common today, right?
But well, mutton chops
Yeah,
long ago.
it's almost like it almost when they explained Wolverine's origin from like the 1800s and stuff. I was gonna say it's almost as if it could be explained away as being somewhat colonial,
Yeah.
like of that period. And that's why
Right.
Wolverine goes for those sideburns. Like he's just always had that style.
Yeah, because he's been around so long. Yeah. Yeah.
And just
Shot.
even the guy down bottom right, he,
Mhm.
he's he's cropped out, but just I already think like that face is so evocative. Just great.
Right. We've got at least six bad guys in that first page there. And then some big action lines again, and the sound effects in the background.
Yeah, this is where it really comes together and gels in the action sequence. All those elements that you just mentioned working in harmony, creating that rhythm. Uh, just a crazy page, crazy ass page.
And the red color letting you know that the intensity is kicked in.
That's it. Absolutely. He's going full tilt with those orange and red hues, right? We're going from yellow and orange to orange and red. High alert.
Yep, and not a lot of talking. Again, very manga-esque, where it's like, hey, there's a battle going on. Look at the visuals. Not much being said. The characters aren't explaining their feelings. They're just fighting it out, doing what's got to be done. So then we get kind of another Frank Miller-esque scene. I mean, this is very reminiscent of The Dark Knight Returns, where you've got the bad guy, they've got the victim, gun, they're up against the wall. The wall's looking like it's cracking. And like Dark Knight Returns, hero's got a gun, he's pointed, but then Eric Larson does something different.
Yeah, and before we switch, I just want to mention this page, another example, great example like last, where these elements that we're talking about that make the comic move so much and are so dynamic, the speed lines, the way the lettering is laid out and the rhythm of it and stuff.
Mhm.
Because I'm reviewing later issues now, it kind of goes away in the series. And I'm surprised by that because looking back at this one, it's, a big part of, Eric Larson's a great artist, great storyteller, all that. I still enjoy Savage Dragon, but now looking at this issue specifically, there's something about all that extra bombast and that manga vibe that you mentioned that really
Mhm.
grabs me, and I kind of miss in a weird kind of way in the later issues.
Yeah, and all the action panels keep being different. It's not
Yeah,
repetitive. Going even from fight to even with what's happened in the other fights, he keeps changing it up. Savage Dragon gets hit in the eye. This guy gets hit in the knee. He's firing up this way. Now somebody's got a captive for the first. And it just keeps changing. He
yeah,
doesn't.
great variety in the angles
Yeah,
and shots and stuff.
there's not
Absolutely.
repeat shots. There's not two different shots in the book of him doing the same thing.
So to have this just thok
Yeah,
as the whole panel no image was a little weird to me until I turned the page as a kid, and figured out that okay,
right.
this guy
It's
got
it's letting you it's letting you think Savage Dragon must have just done that because it's not making it clear.
sure. I
And then
guess that was
on the page
the
to find
intent.
out, oh,
Like,
Savage Dragon didn't shoot his gun because there's throwing stars in the guy's arm.
oh, that's okay. I see how. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And
Yeah,
then
he's got a throwing star shooting gun, but no, yeah, it's alluding to the action, but not actually telling you what's happening. So you think it must be the one thing. It's a, misdirect,
that's right.
effectively. So you you're led to believe Savage Dragon shot. Nope. Throwing stars, somebody else. And then we get our fourth hero, one who's not maimed or dead.
That's right. And
And
and he,
he's kind of the series Spider-Man in a
yeah,
way.
yeah. Well, I guess I had as a kid hadn't picked up on it right away reading that first issue. The hair was a bit of a, well, not to make a pun, but a red herring, right? That kind of puts you off the trail a little bit. But once the
Yeah.
hair disappears, one of those backup stories, and he's just got the capped dome. Yeah, 100%. He is Spider-Man. He kind of has that Spider-Man physique and body language, I guess.
Yeah, we don't get to see it in this issue, but in the later issues, his acrobatics and the way he moves, and he does a lot of jesting. But in this one, it's just, oh, okay. Again, a fourth hero pops up, and again, we just get to see that they exist. It's very quick. One page for Super Patriot. Mighty Man ends up on 2 pages because they come back to him. Star gets a page, so now we've got 4 heroes established in the Savage Dragon.
And I copied this pose of Star here in the
Oh,
windowsill many
uh-huh.
times. I remember as a kid kind of thinking like the hair again is what threw me off. He almost to me had kind of this weird disco vibe. I don't know
Oh
why.
yeah.
Just has a kind of a disco look. It's almost like it's Rick James dressing up as a superhero or something.
Yeah, well, and his supposed alter ego being it's
Peter Clapton.
Clapton. Yes,
Yeah,
Peter
yeah,
Clapton. So it's a gag on Peter Frampton and Eric Clapton
yeah.
together. Um, yeah, whole big gag that happens later, but it's another good quick establishment, and also a guy who Savage Dragon, now a police officer, is like, hey, you're also under arrest. And that guy's like, no, man, I'm helping you out. I might not be doing it the way you're doing it, but I'm still on your side. And unless you're going to shoot me, I'm out of here.
And I like that again, just that little shot of him jumping out the window. Very
Yeah.
small, simple drawing, but you totally it reads perfectly. It's a great bit of foreshortening on such a small drawing.
Oh, yeah. And also by having those small drawings, it allows for the big money shot on the page. But I like on the final panel how we get the dots again, giving it a texture.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
makes that stand out.
And Larson was one of the only guys still using screen tone at Image. I know Dale Keown used a bit on the Pit series, but all the other guys, McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, they kind of did away with it eventually. And I think it adds something that's it's just another tool that you shouldn't kind of just disavow completely. There's definitely
Yeah.
situations where it works well, and this is one of them.
Yeah, he used it in a couple panels, and he was the big Turtles fan, so that makes a lot of sense.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they really popularized that screen tone, eh?
Mhm. And he ended up with a green hero who has only a couple of toes. So again, his feet are like
You're right. You're right. I
feet.
had made that connection. That's funny. And well, basically, this is the last page, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he leaves us with Dragon kind of talking to the media, letting them know
Mhm.
that he's there to take down the bad guys. Someone who can square off with them at their power level. And then we get a little bit of foreshadowing and somewhat, I guess, cameo appearance of our big baddie and a preview of some of the bad guys that we might encounter. If this image thing really takes off, then
Mhm.
these are the kind of characters Savage Dragon's going to be facing off with. Mako, the shark guy, I think is really cool. He like this design here really reminds me of these toys I had as a kid that I really enjoyed called Battle Beasts. Like
Oh, yeah.
this design is almost similar to one of them, and at that point, seeing that in here, he already had me. And Mako seems to have been one of the more kind of popular and remembered bad guys in the Savage Dragon series, right? He made some cameo appearances in the Max, so I have a fondness for him.
Yeah. And he's a good, to be fair, a good Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle kind of bad guy.
100%. Yeah, he would fit in that world, just fit right in. Absolutely.
Yeah. He could have been Bebop and Rocksteady's third guy. And, the guy in the background's kind of a Rob-esque kind of character, or
Yeah.
big strong guy, and a bit of fourth world vibes. And the guy up front, a little bit of a Hellraiser kind of villain.
Yeah, a little bit of a sex dungeon vibe to him for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
He
Yeah, the
likes
open shirt in the middle.
he likes hooks and tying people up.
Yeah, but it's great. A little bit of foreshadowing after we've gotten 3 major action scenes. I was looking at it. I mean, it's a 27-page comic book, so you're getting some extra bang for your buck. 16 pages of those are action, so that's great if you're a kid. You're getting really what you wanted. 2 of the plot pages are explosions and fire. And what does that leave? That leaves 9 pages of giving you the plot. So every time you got to go through a plot page, you're getting 2 pages of action. It's very well paced out for hooking kids while actually providing a whole lot of story that can be appreciated.
Yeah, 100%. This one really just packs it all in for a first issue, establishes a lot of things, not too much where it's confusing. You get a good sense of the world that they're in and the situation, right? With the vicious circle and these superpowered bad guys who, listen, again, shorthand, this is the 90s, these guys aren't playing around and they're killing superheroes and maiming superheroes. So we need the next generation's tough guy, right? It's a great concept, and also what Alex Ross was kind of not parodying but commenting on with Kingdom Come, right? Which is kind of those similar concepts seen from a different angle.
Mhm.
But at this point in the early '90s, that whole image, those image tropes and things that repeat that people got annoyed with weren't there yet. We're at the beginning here, and this is just a great concept, and there's a lot of meat on the bone in this first issue. Out of all the founding fathers' first issues, this is probably the most protein rich.
Yeah, it's the most complete first issue, and it stands the test of time the best, and the series continues on. I did find it interesting that when I looked back, when Eric Larsen takes a second stab at this first issue, he ends up adding to the 27 pages, he adds another 17 pages
Oh
when he
wow,
redoes.
okay.
Yeah, he adds a page of Dragon at the hospital. He adds an extra page of Frank with his wife. He adds 7 pages of Savage Dragon actually training to be on the police force before we see him in action on the police
Okay,
force.
so he's kind of filling in gaps that are in
Yeah,
between the scenes of this issue.
yeah. Things that before we just knew it happened.
Yeah.
Now he's showing it. He showed training. He showed police interaction. He introduced more of the police force characters, and had a few more pages of Savage Dragon fighting bad guys around the city, and the city reacting to like, oh, our new hero who's being
Oh,
reported on. And then there were some extra pages with oh I with closing. There was a site with the house. Oh, with the final fight at the house. There was
okay.
that between the flip and then the crash into the house. There's the flip, and then it's him over the house coming down.
Oh, I think I've seen that one. Yeah, it's like an extra splash page, right?
Yeah, it's an extra splash page, which is a little bit like what the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did they had when Mirage and Archie were both putting out the same books. Because there was the kids version comes out at Archie, and Mirage is still doing the adult Turtles. But when the movies came out and they did the movie adaptations, they both printed them, but over at the Mirage version, they did extra pages, extra action,
Okay.
extra big splash pages, extra fight scene pieces. So
Cool.
maybe he was doing a little of that too.
Sure. Yeah, well, he's always been keen on kind of going back and explaining certain things that may have been a little bit murky and using those opportunities in the trades to add a few pages. I think it's a common thing that he was doing all throughout the trades early on, at least.
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna end it there. We've got a few minutes left on the timer, so I think we've gone, pretty much tackled the whole subject on Savage
Yeah.
Dragon #1. So next time we'll be looking at is it Wildcats or Shadowhawk?
Yeah. Wildcats.
Wildcats. So that's for next week's iteration of Big Baby Reviews with Mark Darden. Mark Darden, before I let you go, is there anything you want to mention? Any place that people can reach you, where they can go check out your stand-up comedy? Is there a show upcoming? You let me know.
Yeah, I'm performing regularly at the Drop. I'm pretty much there every week. I've got in late September, I've got my second show that I've actually put together and that I'm running. So I'm excited about that. That's moving forward. And this giant Max fan project that I'm working on is getting better and better. That's going to be pretty huge. Max fan groups will definitely have already heard about it a little bit, but I'll be putting out more details soon, and a couple other comics I'm working on, but that's enough.
Sounds awesome, man. You sound like a busy guy. So I'm gonna thank everyone for checking out the videos. If you are subscribed, thank you guys so much for still sticking around and checking out the content. If you are watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It really helps out the channel, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books. just like we are. So everyone out there, have an awesome day. Mark, thanks once again. I will see you soon for the next one. Adios.
Yeah, buddy.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like, subscribe,